Hello everybody. Today I am going to talk about anti-money laundering program and countering financing of terrorism. In order to understand this better, first let's understand what is money laundering and what is financing of terrorism. Money laundering is a process of obtaining funds from illegal or illegitimate sources, and then it is put into the financial system in order to depict or show that it comes from a legal source. There are certain directives and rules in order to prevent money laundering activities, and that is known as anti-money laundering program, which will be referred to as AML hereafter. Similarly, we have is the financing of terrorism. It is the act of funding organization or individual in order to carry out terrorism activities. Similarly, we have certain directives and regulations in order to prevent financing of terrorism, and that is known as countering financing of terrorism, which will be referred to as CFT hereafter. Now, there are certain punishable offences that come under AML and CFT. The first and the foremost is actually committing a money laundering or financing of terrorism crime. This could be done by establishment or an individual. The second one is failure to report. Now, in order to understand, what we need to know is that every company should appoint an MLRO, which is referred to as the Money Laundering Reporting Officer. In case of any money laundering activities that are being detected in the organization, it should be complained to the MLRO. A person who complains it to the MLRO is known as whistleblower. Now, the second crime is known as failure to report. Now, what is failure to report? Let's understand this with an example. So, let's say there are two individuals X and Y, where Y is committing a money laundering activity and X is aware of it. Now, in spite of being aware of it, X does not complain it to the MLRO. Now, this is an offence. The third one is tipping off. Tipping off is where, let's say, again the same example where there are two individuals X and Y is committing a money laundering activity, X is aware of it, and X goes and complains it to the MLRO. Now, till here it is a good thing. X is being responsible here by complaining it to the MLRO. But at the same time, X goes and tells Y, hey listen, I have complained about you committing a money laundering activity to the MLRO. Now, this is an offence. Committing any of these crimes or offences can lead to severe penalties on the directors or the person who is committing the crime, which includes civil as well as criminal liability. These may include fines and imprisonment. Now, there are mainly three stages to money laundering. The first stage is known as the placement stage. This is where the funds that are obtained from illegitimate or illegal source are put into the financial system. Now, the illegal or the illegitimate source could be through gambling, drug dealing, human trafficking, etc. Now, these funds are known as dirty funds. The second stage is known as the layering or the structuring stage, where the funds are transferred from one geographical location to another geographical location in order to conceal the source of the origin, thus making it very difficult for the government agencies, the judicial system or the police to trace the source of origin of the funds. Third stage is the integration stage, where the funds that were generated from an illegitimate source and that was put in the financial system now appears to be coming from a legitimate source. Now, this fund can be invested in any class of asset or in any business without any fear of being caught by government agencies, as we did not really know the source of origin of these funds. There are certain steps to combat money laundering. The first one is, in order to identify and trace all the suspicious transactions, artificial intelligence is implemented through regulations and continuous data analytics. Second one is smooth communication with banks, government agencies and other judiciary bodies. The third one is implementation of strict know your client protocols at all placement points in order to trace suspicious transactions. Now, the placement points are the points where funds are initiated. Now, these points are set by the AML regulators, that is the anti-money laundering regulators. And the last but not the least is providing training to staff as well as stakeholders in order to identify suspicious transactions and take actions against them. The AML and the CFT standards are applicable to financial sectors as well as non-financial sectors. Under the financial sectors, the banks and the financial institutions are included. The banks and the financial institutions will have to report to the central bank in the UAE. The banks and the financial institutions in the financial free zone will have to report to the respective financial free zone authority. Under the non-financial sector, dealers of precious metals and stones, real estate brokers, auditors and accountants, companies that conduct management consultancy services, tax services, legal consultancy firms, except for lawyers and notary publics are included. The financial free zone company will have to report to the respective financial free zone authority. The non-financial free zone companies as well as the mainland companies will have to report to the Ministry of Economy. There are certain consequences of failure to comply with AML and the CFT program. The first and the foremost is civil and criminal liability on directors, senior management as well as other employees. This could be in terms of imprisonment or huge fines and penalties. Second one is heightened regulation scrutiny as well as inspection. The third one is it could lead to reputational damage. Thus, there could be a lot of pressure from banks and financial institutions in terms of movement of funds as well as in terms of borrowing more money. Thus, they might charge high borrowing costs due to risk warning on the entity. These are some of the basic details and explanations regarding the AML and the CFT program. Thank you.